Okay, for our vocabulary for today, this is from the Wall Street Journal. A CEO's 5 tips to becoming a better networker. So on page 2, number 1, bear in mind. When you say bear in mind, it's just basically saying you should remember this, or or it's like a reminder. So let's say, for example, let's say that Cynthia gets off of work at 7 o'clock, for example. I don't know if you do, but let's say she gets off at work at 7 o'clock, so she always shows up at 7:35, like 5 minutes later, something like that. So she might come in and say, oh, bear in mind, I get off at 7 o'clock, so I'm always 5 minutes late, and then we'll be like, oh yeah, okay, it's okay. So it's just a way of giving like a reminder. Sorry, Cynthia. It's not true. Okay, so number 2, offbeat. Anything that's just kind of unconventional, not ordinary, sometimes a little bit weird. So sometimes we might say that like somebody listens to offbeat music, as in like their music is for like strange hipsters or something. Or, if you are a traveler and you like traveling to different countries, some people are kind of like offbeat travelers. They like to do something a little bit different. They don't want to go and see what the tourists are doing, and go to like the big famous architecture, structures or anything like that. So those are people that choose to travel a little bit offbeat. Sometimes you might say that somebody's a little bit offbeat, their personality. They're a little bit weird or kind of, yeah. So I'm not going to say how many times I've heard that. Number 3, per se. Per se is great. It's basically like you say it at the end of a sentence, and you're saying that it's like saying, for this specific example, and there's no extreme alternatives or no extremities that can happen. So it sounds weird when I explain it, right? So let's say you expected a movie to be terrible. You go into the theaters, you see the movie, and then you say, oh, it wasn't bad per se. I was surprised. I kind of liked it a little bit, essentially. So, you could say the same for, let's see. This is a little bit hard to think of on the spot, but I use it like every day. It's a weird thing. It's just it's a normal thing that if you're talking about something, you give an example about something, you say per se, and then you might talk about like something that was a little bit different or unexpected about it. You're kind of just giving an example. So that's how I would describe it. I'm going to have to think of a better way to explain that to you guys later. Number 4, a nosedive. This is a really great way to say that somebody had like failed. So a nosedive usually means that you like fell down, right? Or you can say like an airplane, if an airplane was crashing and took a nosedive. So if you're talking about stocks or a chart and sales are dropping, it took a nosedive. If you're talking about somebody giving a speech and the speech was terrible and people just sort of walking away, that person took a nosedive as a metaphor. So it's just basically failing or dropping really quickly. Number 5, to wear multiple hats. I don't know if you've heard this before, but that's just basically somebody that's multi-talented or had a lot of different jobs or careers or roles. And so they are a kind of jack of all trades. Have you ever heard of that? A jack of all trades, someone that can do a lot of things, or somebody that has a talent in a lot of different areas. And last, an arsenal, which is to have a large collection of, usually we talk about like an arsenal of weapons. So it's to have like a large collection of weapons or a large collection of things that are very useful, like skills or talents. You don't really say I have an arsenal of fish. That's not really useful. But countries will say they have an arsenal of weapons. Maybe if you're talking about a university, that university might say that they have an arsenal of famous professors, meaning that they have that's like their weapon, that's their specialty, right? So when you have an arsenal of something, it's usually something that has a lot of power or importance to it. So, you can't really say, like, I have an arsenal of fingers, because it's not really anything special. So that's our vocabulary for today.